Like, what is some verbiage that you suggest for people to use when they're expressing a need or a want to their partner?
Yeah, so I always tell people like preface it. Like, I mean, like I'll use myself as an example with my husband. If I know it's a difficult subject, number one, I'm waiting for the right timing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna prep him that is coming, because no one
Yeah.
likes to talk, especially men.
Right.
Up to you. And then I'm like, hey, honey, I know this is a touchy topic, but this is how I'm feeling about it. So a lot of I statements, a lot of like expressing emotions behind it, because then it doesn't feel as it doesn't put the other person on the defense as much, because you're really expressing how you're feeling, how you're taking it in. And if they love you, their reaction, it doesn't mean it won't be uncomfortable, because it's still, we've had conversations where I'm prefacing, I'm using I statements, I'm using feeling statements, and still it could be it's still gonna, it's a touchy topic. That's why it's a touchy topic.
Yeah.
But I just kind of allow him, I'll say how I feel and express it, give some examples. Then I'll be very explicit in what the expectation is that I want to accomplish. So like, I know some, I'll use like a client I've coached. Like a lot of times people will be like, I want more time. And I'm like, that's very generic. Like,
Yes.
I think you need to be specific. Like, I want to take a walk with you once a week, or I like us to go on a date once a month. I think you have to give people the roadmap, right? Because
Right.
time could look different to the person. So I would say to people, like, expressing it from your perspective, not using the you make me feel, because that just puts people on the
Mm-hmm.
defensive. And then really sitting back and knowing your partner's style of how they deal with a difficult topic, I think is the other piece.
Yeah.
So with my husband, I had to learn, like, I'm the person that likes to solve through and talk through things right away, and he's a processor. And
Mm.
I think what people need to realize is, like, there's value on both sides of the coin, because the processor is really emotionally trying to connect and understand a lot of times, like, why are you feeling this way? They're looking at all the nuances of it. And someone who's quick to solve, it's not that they're not looking at the emotional side, they're just more action oriented. And you need both. You need someone who could look at all the layers of the problem, peel back the onion, so to speak. And then you need someone on the other side to say, okay, now how do we execute and move forward? So that there's power in that. I think the challenge is when you have two avoiders.
For sure. If not impossible with two avoiders. That's what I always say, there's almost like value in the anxious and the avoidant coming together. That's why
Yeah.
they're so drawn to each other, because there is a balancing of that. And
Hmm.
I agree with that there is often the partner who is the processor, and they do need more time. And so I'm similar to you in personality, in terms of like, I want the solution now. I want to
Yeah.
know what we're doing. I want to know how it's going to be fixed. And that is not always conducive to other people's communication styles or how they make sense of things. And also sometimes puts them in a position to either say or do things that they don't actually mean. So whether they are getting defensive and so they say something that's hurtful, or sometimes they make commitments that they can't actually live up to because they're just trying to like help, like they see how badly you want to solve it, so they're like jumping in to try to do it with you.
Right.
But neither side of that is going to be effective if they just need more time to sit with it. And so
Yeah.
that's, yeah, great point. And when you're the receiver of that, I encourage people, reflect, validate, and explore the three
Hmm.
steps that I encourage people to do. So if you are coming to me saying you want more time, reflecting back, okay, I hear that you don't feel like we're getting enough time together, maybe you're not feeling like I'm prioritizing you, and then validating that. I see how you could feel that way. I know quality time is your love language. So I know that's really something that you need. And then explore. And the explore is really asking follow-up questions. And so, to your point, maybe even asking for the specificity in that. Like, what does more time together look like? How can we do that in a way that works for both of us?
Yeah, and I think, like, there's so much power in that, because what you said is what I think a lot of discontent is comes from in relationships. People want to be seen,
Yeah.
heard, and validated. And if you look at any relationship that starts to like fall apart, I feel like those are consistent themes. I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel like you were listening to me. I didn't feel like you could see who I was or where I want to go. Like, those are other themes that like come up, that
Yeah.
recur, where there's like relationship issues. And I think the other thing is like focusing on one issue at a time. Sometimes I heard this someone say this and it was funny. She's like, I get angry wife syndrome, where like it just builds, 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 and and it's almost like diarrhea of the mouth. Everything comes
Right.
out. It's like you talk about 20 things, and the person on the other side is like, "Where did this come from?" And it's just built up frustration because you haven't expressed yourself. And so
Yeah.
there's power in like really releasing, some things at a time, and that could be hard. I don't know about you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but for me, I'm like sometimes I'm like, "Come on, let's get this done." So like when I have to hold back, and I'm like, I just got to focus on one thing. That could be hard for some people.
Right. But if you're bringing it up regularly, and so that is something I really encourage for couples is to do weekly check-ins. I post about this all the time. I provide check-in questions on Instagram. But like when you're doing a weekly check-in, and I really encourage people, you have the same day, time. So whether you do it on if you have a date every week, or maybe the kids are in bed by 8 p.m. So by 8:30, you're on the couch on, Thursday night at 8:30, that this is just when we do our check-in, and that you each are coming with maybe 2 or 3 questions that you can each think of on your own, or maybe you pull it from a list. But that is a really good opportunity to not allow these things to build up, because if you know that you're meeting every week to have this conversation, if there's something that happened on Sunday, you know that just in a few days you're going to be able to talk about it, and you're going to be able to express it, and it's going to be a safe environment to do that. And that is exactly why I suggest it, because exactly what you're saying, that otherwise we tend to like bite our tongue until then we're just complete assholes and it all just explodes. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for my newsletter, and find me on Instagram at Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick.